From the blank looks on your faces, in the absence of a salute, I can only surmise you have no idea who I am. I am Major General Andrew Jackson, Commander of the 7th Military District of the United States, former House of Representatives, Senator, Territorial Governor of Tennessee. I am here today under the command of Secretary of State John Quincy Adams, the cabinet of President James Monroe. They've decided to try me for crimes of war. They say that I have broken international law by attacking a country to which we are not at war with. They say that I have committed war crimes against the Allied Creek Indians. I assure you this is not the case. It is my hope, after hearing my side of the story today, you shall find cause to side with me against this cabinet. These charges are null and void. How could I have attacked a country in which we are not at war with when I assure you we are at war with Spain? Spain harbors the enemy. After the Treaty of Ghent was signed and ratified early this year, the British received no protection by being in Florida. Just being here is mere treason. The Spanish harbors the British. They harbor the Seminoles. They refuse to return the slaves to the rightful owners. By harboring the enemy, therefore, Spain is the enemy. I cannot commit crimes of war by attacking Spain when I assure you we are at war with Spain. If I had committed war crimes against the hostile Allied Creek Indians, would I have adopted an orphaned Indian child? Would I have tried Lieutenant Scott for committing war crimes a month earlier by attacking an Allied Creek village? I assure you that's not the case. My experience in this area began 4 years prior. I was sent by then President John Adams to alleviate the conflicts between the upper and lower Creek Indians. These Creek Indians, they fought amongst themselves. Brothers and nephews and cousins, they murdered one another. For what reason? Their sheer hatred of the white man. They hated the white men so much being on their land, they were willing to murder one another just for this sheer hatred. You think I've shed a lot of Indian blood? You have no idea. These Indians have killed more of each other than I could ever dream of doing. The problem I continually incurred with these Creek Indians is I pursued them. They came into Spanish Florida. They sought immunity from the United States government by being in Spanish Florida. I knew that the only course of action was to overthrow the Spanish government and take control of Florida. But that was not the case at the time. As I came into Spanish Florida, every time I met with resistance from the Spanish government, they harbored these Indians. The British supplied guns to fight against us, and Spain would not do anything about it. So the British that I pursued into Florida, when we got to Pensacola, they went to their vessels out in the Gulf and they assured me they would be returning to Britain, but I knew better. Britain actually revamped its attack and came into the United States through New Orleans. I took the remainder of my militia to New Orleans, those that had not deserted me. And when I got to New Orleans, I started gathering militia. I gathered 4,000 militia from the streets of New Orleans. Drunks, cowards, Negroes, Cajuns, pirates. I gathered to fight. And with my force of 4,000 men, I defeated the army that defeated Napoleon. 10,000 soldiers I defeated with my mere 4,000. My casualty was a dozen, where over 400 British fell to us. It was for this regards I received the Congressional Medal of Honor and the rank of Major General. I stand before you today a decorated general defending my action against the oxygen thieves of Congress who want to try me for crimes of war. It's ridiculous. They say, we want peace, but they have no idea what peace takes. These people sit in offices and they try to fight wars with pens and pencils. They don't know. Congress wants to return Florida back to Spain. The Senate wants to return Georgia back to the Cherokee. It's ridiculous. I'm in control now. I know that the only course of action was to overthrow the Spanish government and take control of Florida. Answer me this, how do you control the enemy unless you control the ground they stand on? It does not happen. Spain will cede Florida one of two ways. They can do it voluntarily, willingly, and probably get well compensated for it, or we shall take it militarily. One way or another, Spain will cede Florida. I will serve in the post of military governor until which time the Onus-Adams Treaty can be signed. And you think, well, Spain wants peace? If Spain wanted peace, they would have already signed the Onus-Adams Treaty. They had the opportunity after the Treaty of Ghent was ratified earlier this year, but they refused to. So I shall remain in the post of military governor until which time the transaction can be made between Secretary of War John Quincy Adams in Spain, or we shall take it militarily. And here's what we shall do. The slaves that we find shall be returned to the rightful owners. Those who want to stand alongside us and fight have that choice. Those who refuse, we shall execute them. For the British that remain in Florida, just the mere presence of a British person, especially an official, in Spanish Florida today constitutes treason. The Treaty of Ghent assured that no British would remain in Spanish territory and seek immunity. So all the British officials that remain here, for Ambrister and Arbuthnot, the British officials that are now supplying Seminoles guns, they shall be executed because just the mere presence in Florida of the British right now constitutes treason. I feel like that we are still at war with Britain. I feel like it never ended. So that's what we should do with the Spanish and for the British. For the slaves, we should return them to the rightful owners unless they want to stand alongside us and fight. And that brings us to the Indians. What should we do with the Indians here? I think that once this conflict is resolved and this Onus-Adams Treaty can be signed and this land becomes official United States territory, we should take the advice of Thomas Jefferson and we shall move these Indians west. And you say, well, why move the Indians? This is their land. It is the consensus of this nation that we acquire this land one way or another. They shall be moved west, and those that refuse to be moved west, because here's another reason, because the Indians, they refuse to fall under the yoke of our slavery. And an Indian is not fit to govern themselves. They waste this land, and they can't govern themselves. They won't fall under the yoke of our slavery, and we will have this land, so either move them or kill them. And they have that choice. The Indians that want to peacefully move west, it shall be. Those that stay here, for the ones who have served alongside of us as scouts like the Cherokee and Allied Creek, they shall have the option to fight alongside of us as they have been so far. But for those who refuse, like the hostile Creeks and those that we met at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, we shall execute them. I'm sure you've all heard now about the day the Tallapoosa River ran red with the blood of the hostile Creek Indians. The Chipola can run that way as well. The reason that I have chosen the post that I am in right now, let me tell you just a moment. One league to the north of us is a place that I have fell in love with. The Creeks call us the Great Forest of Chipola. It is a floating raft of land in this forest of Chipola. And my men, they would like to stay here because there's plenty of food. There's deer, there's bear, there's alligators. There's no shortage of food here. There's very unique trees that have roots that stand as tall as a man and needles for leaves to grow throughout this forest of Chipola. The soil is fertile. These Indians, they waste this land. They don't know how to grow crops. They say, well, the land belongs to everybody. No, it belongs to us, and they'll leave. This is good land, and we will use this land. There's plenty of food for us. But on this forest of this raft of land in this forest of Chipola, there exists a ridge. And this ridge is full of openings within it throughout. And within this ridge, there's the most unusual occurrence of rocks. There are rocks that grow down from the ceilings and up again from the floor. And they sparkle. There's reds and oranges and whites. It's the most unusual occurrence of rocks I have ever beheld. I have written home to Thomas Jefferson. In his interest of geology, I believe he can explain how these rocks do occur. But they are in what they call caverns. And they're the most unusual thing that I've ever seen. But near this great forest of Chipola, in this ridge, there's a raft of land. And this raft of land, the reason I have chosen this, it serves as a pinch point. The Spanish have been crossing this raft of land for 175 years since they attempted to Catholicize the hostile Creek Indians. British officials meet today to supply guns to the Seminoles and the Creeks that they arm to fight against us. In this pinch point, we shall try and execute the Spanish, the British, the slaves, and the Seminoles, all from this point here. And when this conflict is over, I believe that I shall bring my wife Rachel my adopted children, and my 200 slaves to work this land around the great forest of Chipotle. Let it be known, this is my address to Washington. This is my address to the spineless coward that you call a president. This is my courier. This is my statement. I stand on Spanish land representing the United States government to hold this public hearing to satisfy the requirements of this cabinet. This land will be ours. Spain will cede Florida. I have not attacked a country that we are not at war with because we are at war with Spain. Spain harbors the enemy, therefore they are the enemy. We engage in organized conflict under leadership. This defines war. So we are at war with Spain. I have not committed war crimes against the Creek Indians. Again, I tell you, I would not have tried Lieutenant Scott a month ago for attacking an allied Creek Indian village if I had committed war crimes. Would I have adopted an orphaned Indian child as my own, named Lucoya? No. That's not someone who has committed war crimes. Again, I stand before you, a decorated general, recipient of the Congressional Medal of Honor, defending myself against the actions of this oxygen thief known as Congress. That is all. Are there any questions? All right. That was fun. I'll step out of character now. I think I introduced myself.